I'm going to make the hole at least 4 feet in diameter, even though the root structure right now is less than 2 feet in diameter. I want plenty of loosened up soil so as the tree grows, its roots can go. Four feet wide and shallow. You're making a bed for the roots, not a hole. You don't plant a tree in a hole, you plant a tree in a bed, because you want the roots to grow out horizontally. The ground in the middle is kind of raised up a little bit, but even then I'm going to go through this whole hole and loosen it up with my pick. And it's not a hole, it's a bed. A bed for the tree. Here's the tree, here's the root structure. It's not too bad. All the roots go out and radiate from the center, like they should. None of the major ones are curling back. If I find any that are, I'll straighten them out, like this little root right here. I'm going to put it in the ground, I'm going to straighten it out. It looks like it's kind of broken. This one right here needs to be straightened out a little bit. They trim the roots, that's the standard of the industry. I wish they wouldn't do it, but they say it's too hard to transport them if they leave the full root structure, and it's too hard to get them out of the ground. The ideal way would be to get them fully intact without the roots trimmed at all. That's the industry standard, unfortunately. But it'll work. This is a vigorous tree. Red maple, Acer rubrum, red sunset. Straightening out the roots. Adding the base soil first. Parent soil. Hey, look at that, the tree's already standing up on its own. And an excellent root structure. I need to rotate it a little bit this way. There. Perfect. This tree was made to go here. Where the root crown is. The root crown I put in just a hair above grade, about a half an inch to an inch, the root crown. And I covered the root crown a couple inches with this dome of potting soil, but it aerates really good, and it tends to wash away. So it's never going to be an issue of water welling around the trunk. That's exactly what you don't want. That's why you want this raised in the middle, slightly, if anything. Flush with the ground or slightly raised, and the water can drain away, because you can always add potting soil or dirt with humus in it, or just humus to keep the root crown covered if it does wash away. But I covered it with at least 2 inches. And this stuff is real fluffy and light, and it washes away easily, so that's what usually ends up happening when I come back and look. People have watered with a hose and they end up washing this away. So I like to put a little more around it to protect it from sunburn, and it breathes really good, so water's not going to stand around the base of this tree, which is what you don't want. You don't want standing water. You don't want a well. You want a slight mound like this. These are my stakes. I'm going to put in 3 of them. I have 3 Douglas fir stakes, and I'm going to pound them into the ground far away from the tree, which is the best way to do it. They'll never interfere with the roots. I'll pull out the stakes in less than a year, and they'll never entangle with the roots. Most landscapers put them really close, less than a foot away from both sides of the tree usually. I usually only use 2. I'm going to use 3 and space them more than twice the distance. That's the industry standard. is better for the tree. It doesn't interfere with its upper growth or its root growth as much. Red Sunset Maple from Whiting's Nursery in St. Helena. I planted this in the middle of February 2007 in Angwin, California. I like to take the tags off the tree. I don't think they're good for the branches to have something scraping on them, those plastic tags. I always put them on the stake somewhere instead of the tree. I'm going to prune some of these limbs because it's got a lot of close scaffold limbs. I'm going to try to give the scaffold limbs more distance between each other. Here's all the limbs I took off. There was competing limbs, competing with each other, and some of them were too close. There are two sets of scaffold limbs in here that I removed. They were too close to these two sets right here. I was tempted to almost take these out right here. But I think I'll wait a year before these get too big. I mean, they won't be too big to cut in 1 year later, next winter, and then I'll do some more trimming. There was one that was competing with the dominant stem up here. This dominant stem right here. I want it to stay the dominant stem. I don't want, this was the one that was competing with it. It was up here, and I didn't want two co-dominant stems of equal height competing. So I took that one off. I might just cut that one off too, the one next to it. It's going to try to compete and grow up and become a dominant stem too.